right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's open forum. Everybody seems to be motivated today. Everybody wants to learn about some of these things that are now required. You guys see Jeanette on your screen. If you're looking at the people with their cameras on, you see Jeanette on there. Jeanette, you're not going to like her for a little while because she's going to be enforcing this flood disclosure, the FD2 that we're going to need. She's in the process of changing some of our checklists right now because some of the rules have changed on the flood disclosures. And so we're going to look at that. We did talk about it a couple of weeks ago. If you saw me talk about it a couple of weeks ago, that's what it was, but it had just come out that day or the day before or something. So let's talk about exactly what is going to happen with the FD2, which is the new and improved flood disclosure. It was 3 weeks ago because it started on the 1st and now it's the 22nd. So that's exactly 3 weeks ago. We had a meeting the day it started and we went over it briefly. I want to go over it with you a little bit better right now because Jeanette is going to be holding up your pay if you don't get it in. So, and it's not something you can do. You're supposed to do it the last second. It says it very clearly on here. I'm going to do I'm going to actually show you because we've gotten a lot of questions. Those of you who didn't know that it's required now. Is it required for a lease also? Those of you doing a lease, and the answer is yes, it is. And it's very clear because they have their own form that you're about to see pop up on your lovely screen. That is a lease flood disclosure. So when you type, I'll go back into how we got here. But when you type it into the forms, FD, that's all you need to type. And it's only they got rid of FD1, it's gone. So they've got FD2 now, and they also have a lease FD, which is going to be LFD. So that pops up as well. You see both of these are going to be revised 10/25. That means it started at the beginning of this month. These are 100% required. Notice the parties and licensees. This form must be filled out by the landlord. If the landlord and or tenant have questions about their rights on this addendum, or this addendum, they should consult legal counsel. Florida statute, blah, 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 requires the landlord to complete and provide a flood disclosure to the prospective tenant of residential real property at or before the time of the lease or rental agreement for 1 year or longer is executed. And if you're thinking, oh, I never do leases, I just do sales, just put seller and buyer in the same where it says landlord and tenant because it says the exact same thing. Landlord blank provides tenant the following flood disclosure at or before the time of the lease. Look, at or before the time of the lease, at or before the time of the lease or rental agreement. Okay. It says the same thing that we're about to see on the other form. And I'm going to show you the other form because most of you are doing sales, but it is also required for leasing when you do leasing. Let's go back to this. Actually, well, here we go. So this is how I got there. Anytime you're adding a form to a transaction or you're just searching for a blank form to fill out for a transaction, oh my goodness, I better get this done. You just type FD right there and it'll come up with these two forms. I pulled up the lease one first. This most commonly used one obviously is going to be the sales. We're going to go to the flood disclosure. I'm just doing standalone form. You guys are typically going to have a plus sign to add it to your transaction over there. But I'm just looking up forms right now. Okay, here it is. Same thing. Seller, at or before. Seller, their name provides buyer flood disclosure at or before. You guys think they want it done at or before the time a sales contract is executed? I think they say it in every paragraph. The only thing this doesn't say, I'm surprised it doesn't say, is that your commissions are negotiable. Every other form says that now, but this is for flood. So seller has knowledge or has no knowledge of any flooding. Okay, so how this changed from the previous one is, was there an insurance claim? Is all it had before. And now it says, do you have any knowledge of any flooding? Do you guys know what flooding is? I want to be very clear about that. Flooding is not that the kitchen sink leaked. It is not that the air conditioner drain was clogged and it leaked onto the floor and came down to the bottom floor, whatever. It's none of that stuff. It is actual flooding, like what is covered by flood insurance, which is water from outside the home breaching the thing of the hole. If your roof leaks and your house got flooded and the ceiling fell down your living room, that's not the same. That's a roof leak. That's not a flood. Flood is when water from outside the house gets into the house on the ground. Okay, it can't come through the windows. It can't come through the ceiling. It has to be on the ground. So that is what a flood is. A flood is not just that the house was flooded because we left town for a week and somebody left the water on, okay, or the bathtub overflowed or the toilet overflowed or something like that. That's not flooding. I mean, we call it flooding, but it's not what this is referring to. Okay. It does not have to be FEMA flooding. It does not have to be an insurance. Maybe you got flood came in, the water came in through the back sliding glass door, but it was just a tile floor and we got it out of there. If you know that there was flooding, you have to disclose it. Okay. And here's where you guys get busted for not disclosing stuff. Not you guys, the seller gets busted for not disclosing stuff. Is you see it all the time with septic stuff that they don't disclose. You call somebody, or pool stuff, leaky pool, that this happens, guys. I see it. You guys have done it, or your clients have done it. Other people's clients have done it, and you guys have represented the buyer, where they don't disclose anything about the pool leaking, or they don't disclose that they had a roof leak, or they don't disclose that they had flooding. And then the new buyer calls somebody and they go, "Oh yeah, we just gave an estimate there 3 months ago." Right? They had somebody come out and look at the pool was leaking there 3 months ago. We told the guy it was going to be $2,800, right? Or whatever it is. So that's how they get busted. And that's how these lawsuits start. So, disclose. This is on the seller to disclose these things. Obviously you're not going to know unless you are the seller, or you live next door or something like that. You wouldn't know these things. So it's up to the seller to disclose these things, but they need to know it's very serious. Now, the weird thing about this super important document that a deal cannot be closed without it, is the buyer doesn't even sign that they saw it. So it's really weird. Doesn't make sense. You just are saying, well, this is very serious stuff here about flood. The flood, I would think you guys would agree, flood damage is really serious stuff, especially in Florida with hurricanes and everything else, right? Where the storm surge and the this and the that. And after all of that, the buyer doesn't even sign that they saw it. They sign the HOA disclosure. They sign every other disclosure, lead paint, all these other disclosures, but they do not sign this one. It's just kind of, oh yeah, we provided them a copy on whatever date we provided them a copy. Better make it before the contract, right? And nobody's there to verify it. And so a year later, when we get audited for it, nobody's there. Now, the only thing that ever happened bad about this is, again, you get busted by circumstance, which is the buyer has a flood and they say, you didn't disclose it. And you say, well, we said we did on this date. Well, can you prove that you sent the email on that date, or that anybody ever saw it? No. Was it done that day? I don't really know. You know what I mean? So you cannot cheat on these things. These need to be with your contracts. I would have them absolutely with your listing. Put it on as an attachment on your listing. Okay. You don't have to have the buyer's name on here. Buyer's name doesn't even go anywhere on here. Just put it on as an attachment with your listing. Okay. Everybody got that?
May I suggest something, Ryan, that I've seen that I feel that's been helpful? Exactly what you said. It's weird. They don't have a space for the buyer. How do we know the buyer gets this? A lot of people gotten sued along the line. There's floods and so. I've seen a lot of agents add little boxes at the bottom part for the buyer to sign, and either initial. Not mandatory, but I think it's something that would be, would protect you. Get the buyer to sign it. Put a little spot at the bottom. I mean, I would just suggest that. I've seen a lot of agents do that, and seems pretty smart to do.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, this should say buyer. This should have the buyer signing and not the seller, actually. But it's seller initial, and both of them initial the bottom or something like that. It's really weird that it doesn't. And then to say it's super important. So there we go. Any questions on that? I'm going to start with people with their hands up. Tammy.
So if there's a lease like that was leased like 3 months ago, do you have to go back and give them a flood?
Anything that started, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just stuff that started by August or October 1st. No, I don't think it's going to be super heavily. Obviously, any deal that was in pending at that time, it's not going to be at or before the time the sales contract is executed. So what we had before, guys, the FD1, you could have that or have the seller's property disclosure filled out. So some of our old checklists say seller's property disclosure or flood disclosure or seller's property disclosure, because it was covered in the seller's property disclosure also. There's a flood section in there. But now they said, we don't want that. We want this form absolutely required every deal. So, and again, they updated this on 1025, same as the other one. Revised 1025, it was FD1, now it's FD2, revised 1025. Okay. Does that answer your question, Tammy? Yeah. So pending deals as of October 1st, whatever. Guys, this is going forward. Do it right. Glenn.
Yeah, I think you answered my question. But I had a contract 2 weeks ago. I used the older flood disclosure. Do I need to get this new one into you?
No. It says roughly the same thing. It's fine.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, you bet. Christina.
Hey, I just want to clarify. I've hopped on at like 10:40. So we're just saying this is about the flood disclosure and it's required on every deal, whether it's condo, single family, whatever. The new flood disclosure is required for every deal.
Yes, there's a lease one as well. So you missed that part. I started with the lease form because until this one came out, there wasn't a lease form. It was just buyers and sellers. So now there's a lease form for it as well. So starting October 1st, there was a lease form, and it says the same thing that this one says, except it says instead of seller and buyer, it says landlord and tenant, and instead of it must be done at or before the time of sales contract, it says at or before the time of lease or rental agreement. So it's the same thing for leasing and for buying, and anything that starts from now on, it's got to have it. Okay.
Thank you.
And your Jeanette is updating our checklist to say that for you. Juliana.
I may sound a little ignorant about this, but I know it's a disclosure, but what is the importance of this disclosure?
First of all, you don't sound ignorant. It's important to understand everything for everybody so you can explain it to your people as well. That's why we like to do these open forums so we can talk about it all right here, share ideas, share facts. More important to share facts than ideas, but share facts about this stuff. And this one is because you want to explain it to your people as well. And there's never dumb questions in open forum, by the way, not ignorant. So this is disclosing that there's been floods. So there's been so much with the hurricanes that came through. There's been so much lawsuit. Anytime we have forums, guys, disclosures, it's because there's been lawsuits.
Something happened.
We have an HOA disclosure because somebody at some point, before I got into real estate, somebody at some point bought into a neighborhood and they weren't told it had HOA rules and regulations and fees and all that stuff. And so they sued the seller. That probably happened several times, just like they don't put a red light up until people start dying at an intersection. It's the same kind of thing. They don't make these disclosures until there's a bunch of lawsuits. Okay. So, and there's been people have been damaged by things. So with the hurricanes coming through, people started suing other people saying, you didn't tell me I was in a flood zone, that even though I'm not in a flood zone, I was getting flooded. So that's really what this is for. It's up to the buyer to determine, hey, this is in a flood area. But if it's not in a flood area and it's getting flooded, we had what they call 100-year, they have 100-year flood zones. We had 100-year floods with the hurricanes. Okay. So that was our 2024, 2023, that was our 100-year flood thing. So lawsuits went through the roof. They said, we got to start disclosing it so we have pure proof, because the seller would say, I don't know. Right. And I didn't know anything. And now there's just a disclosure saying that absolutely, they're just putting it in writing what you were supposed to disclose on the seller's property disclosure. And when you have a lot of, Florida has a lot of investor deals and stuff too. So you have a lot of deals where people won't do seller disclosures because they never lived in the property and they can't really speak to it. Right. And they have attorneys who tell them, don't ever fill those things out. Because the more you try to get in there and disclose, the more chance you lied about something, even unintentionally, right? So that's where all this stuff comes from. And this is just saying that they have no knowledge. So they just had one that says we never filed a claim and we never got FEMA. This one added, I have no knowledge of any flooding that has damaged the property during my ownership. Okay. I think they shouldn't even have during my ownership. I think it should say I have no knowledge, because if the previous owner told me, I should probably tell you that too. Right. So that's where it is. So really, even looking at this, I went and told you my own personal interpretation of this, but this actually says it on here: the overflow of inland or tidal waters, unusual rapid accumulation of runoff or surface waters, sustained periods of standing water sustaining from rainfall. See, so all that comes in over the doors, not maybe over the windows, depending on how high it is, but not through the roof or any other way, not, plumbing leaks and stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question, Julia. I covered a lot of stuff there, but it's absolutely disclosing it. I have no knowledge of something that happened, any kind of flooding that happened on this property. Now, if you're buying a coastal property in Sarasota or St. Pete Beach or something, right now, it's pretty obvious they had a bunch of flooding, and there's still stuff, next to the road from storm surge and everything else. And it actually came in people's windows. It was so high. Right. So obviously you have knowledge of that. That's not really who this is for. Obviously the seller is going to check yes here, right? FEMA came, I filed insurance, I have knowledge of it, right? So those are going to be yeses. But if you're in, you're in Claremont, you got a bunch of hills and stuff, and you're like, could it flood here? Probably not. And then you get, people are going to have to say, no, I have no knowledge of that. It never happened. Never filed a claim for it. Never seen FEMA here for it. So that's it. That makes sense? Awesome. Pablo.
Yes. So even if we have a seller's disclosure, we have to have this also, this
Yes.
form?
Yes.
Okay.
That is what's changed. This is absolutely a standalone must be. It's going to be on every deal other than new construction, because they have their own disclosures, commercial, and what else? Commercial. Oh, referral deals. We don't need.
What about commercial leases?
No, not commercial.
Okay.
Nothing commercial. Nothing with nothing with new construction, and nothing with referrals. Referrals, guys. The whole point of referrals is we don't keep the paperwork for those. We just keep your referral agreement. And if you can get us a HUD, that'd be great, so we can verify your commission and why it was that. But honestly, we've never gotten audited for referrals, and we just need the agreement showing why we got paid and how we got paid. If we're paying someone else a referral, guys, we're going to need their W-9 for their brokerage as well. Okay, that's all on your checklist. Any other questions on this flood disclosure thing? Because that's not really what I even wanted to talk about, but that's something we need to talk about, because I'm sure Jeanette hasn't complained to me about it, because you guys are very helpful in doing it, but she's having to come after it with some of you guys and to get you guys paid. And I know you guys, that's our favorite part. It's our favorite day is payday. Let's talk about paperless pipeline and talk about these agreements. You guys have had some issues with other agents and other brokerages who do not know the rules and do not know. Some of you guys have been right about the rules, and the other brokers and agents don't. And some of you guys haven't really known the rules. So I want to go over that with you guys. And what we're seeing is not that the rules, I'm not going to go over the basic rules of this because we've been over it a million times. But what I want to talk about is the little things that happen that make, that's what makes this the Wild West, is the little things that happen. I've been talking to a listing agent. He hasn't sent me the compensation agreement. He wants me to write it up. I don't know how to write it up. And my client wants me to submit this offer, and now I can't get him on the phone. I can't get him to respond to my compensation agreement, blah, blah, blah. And I don't have this thing. What should I do? And the answer to this is put it in the contract, put it in the additional terms, put your 3% in the additional terms. Seller will pay buyer's broker 3%. Okay. That's what you want to put in your additional terms. You will compensate. We'll pay buyer broker's compensation of 3%. That's what you want to put in your additional terms. If they're not responding to you, if they're refusing to fill out or return the compensation agreement. Now, compensation agreements, I've told you guys this from the beginning, they should be done by the listing agent, and they should be can't put them on MLS. I had one of you guys put one on MLS. You cannot put them on MLS, but I do want them filled out. Actually, they filled it out perfectly. They just put it as an attachment. So we had to take it off. And they didn't get caught. They had it on there as an attachment for 100 days, and they didn't get caught. So we got it. Somebody told us about it, and we took it off. So you want to do, but you do want to do them and have them ready to send out when people ask you. So you don't have to draw one up for every buyer. And yeah, we had somebody else put it in the realtor remarks, believe it or not, and they didn't get caught either. So remarkable. So you want to have it filled out, ready to go, and you can fill out everything about this. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, you can fill out everything about this. Oh, sorry, guys, I'm not sharing the right page. Here we go. Sorry. You can fill out everything about this without putting in the buyer stuff and have it ready to send out, okay? And you can just leave that blank. It says 30 days. 30 days is fine. You don't know who the buyer is, but you can put here, you can click, I didn't open this, but you can click here and put, your 3%, 2%, whatever you're offering, 2.5%, whatever it is, 1% or nothing, or whatever you want to do, whatever the not whatever you want to do, whatever you have on your listing agreement, you put here, and you have it ready to send out. So, but the most important thing was, we have had someone have to fight for their thing. We got it, but we had to fight for it. And it's because they did not have a signed agreement before they submitted a contract. So the guy had told them by text, it's 3%. They submitted the contract, didn't put the 3% because they had the text that said 3%. And then the guy tried to change it to 2%. And they ended up getting the whole 3% because we raised, we had a fit about it and threatened them. But we got the 3%. But that is, put the 3% on the contract. If they haven't returned the form, they haven't said anything else about it, you can't get them on the phone, you can't get them to reply to an email, maybe even send it the thing for them to sign and they didn't do it. Don't leave yourself out in the cold. Don't leave your client. Your client owes you the 3%. So you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting your client. Do it right, put it in the additional terms. Now, listing agent that we had this past week that did this, they squawked about it being additional terms, wanted it changed, whatever. It's like, my broker says it's not supposed to be in there. Some of that's not true. First of all, that was the old rule where you weren't supposed to argue with MLS offers of compensation. So it was an ethical violation before. If I put a property on MLS and I put 2% and you wrote 3% on the contract, that was an ethical violation. You're supposed to take the MLS offer of compensation or don't. Okay. And you can always use the buyer brokerage agreement we used to have and charge your client that extra 1%. But that's, nobody ever did, but that's very few people ever did. But the point was that you weren't supposed to negotiate an MLS offer of compensation. That's what you agreed to when you joined the board and the MLS. But now there is no MLS offer. A very celebrated lawsuit, as we all know, there is no MLS offer of compensation. So you can write it on a contract like we did in commercial, used to happen for years and years and years. Okay. It's part of the deal is the seller pays and the seller pays, or you can negotiate whatever you want that the buyer's gonna pay. You can negotiate whatever you want in commercial real estate, but someone's paying their broker, somebody's paying both brokers, and you spell that out in commercial contracts. And you can certainly spell it out in residential contracts now using the FAR bar. Juliana.
I had an agent reply to me something like, it's gonna depend on the quality of the offer that you present.
Fair enough. Okay, so with my offer, I'm putting 3% no matter what my offer is. I don't care if they've got it listed for 500 and my client wants to offer 420, okay, or 399. It doesn't matter. I'm still putting my 3% in there. Whatever my buyer owes me, I'm putting in the contract. They can negotiate that. They can say, you know what? Or let's say you offer 480 for my $500,000 listing, and you offer 475 and 3%. You're going to put 3% on the contract, right? Because they wouldn't send you a compensation form. It's all part of the negotiation now.
Right.
So now your buyer owes you that 3%. The seller can say, you know what? You offered 475. We want 480, and we'll pay you 2%. And say, well, my buyer owes me 3% of 480, which is another $4,800 between the 2% and the 3%, right? Of 480 is another $4,800. So we'll pay you. How about instead of that, you talk with your buyer, obviously.
Right.
You say you're going to owe me an additional $4,800. So do you want to just offer them an additional $4,800 and they pay me all 3% and we'll finance that in, or what? So you have to work that out. But that's just some movies. That's negotiation. That's anything.
Right.
You go buy a car at a car lot, they're going to negotiate with you and everything else. So it's a negotiation. It's all part of the deal, and that's what you do. So yes, it makes perfect sense. You're going to have a lot of sellers who want to do that now. I've seen it a lot. I've had you guys talk to me about it a lot. Hey, can I do that? Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And you're going to run into that on the other side plenty, especially with fancier houses. When they're dealing with a little bit more money, they're going to get like that, right?
So it's a negotiation with the seller, and then with your buyer, you can also negotiate if you want to come down with, or.
Yeah, it's all part of the deal. We're negotiating things that so my buyer now that's one thing I love. This is not bad at all. I mean, it was scary. It was a lot to go through, a lot to learn, but it's not a bad thing for buyer's agents at all. Buyer's agents, as we know, are making more money now than they did before because you don't have to accept an MLS offer of compensation. They've shown that buyer's agents are making more since the change than they were before. This whole thing wasn't about saving anybody money, or it wasn't about the consumer at all. It was about a bunch of lawyers making money on the class action.
Right.
That's all it was. So they it's all part of the negotiation. So now the buyer actually owes you 3% or whatever you have on your agreement. They actually owe you that money. So any negotiation you do for your commission is helping them. Okay.
Right. And the
So-
seller doesn't need to know if your buyer is paying you. It's not gonna come out on the
Oh,
alta.
yeah. What do you mean they don't need to know? Of course they need. That's welcome. They're welcome to know. That's going to be on the HUD,
Right. Okay.
on the settlement statement,
Mhm.
on the alta, on the whatever, how many ever names we have for the
Yeah.
settlement statement. It's going to be on that, right? So no, why? I mean, it's why would you be? And you're going to know, like you always find out what the listing agent got. Remember, you guys used to get
Right.
mad. The listing agent would keep 3.5% and give you 2.5%, and you
Yes.
would put it out on the HUD. Even though it's none of your business to count other people's money, you accepted the 2.5% because that's what it said in the MLS.
Yeah.
And there's still going to be people doing that, right? There's still going to be people keeping 3 and giving 2, or negotiating you down as much as they can, right?
Right.
So that's what it's all about. So yeah, it all comes out. It should be. It's common. It's going to be everybody's knowledge at the end. And you're going to be upfront about it. Look, I'm going to ask for 3% because that's what my buyer owes me.
Right.
I mean, my buyer is contractually obligated to that 3%, so I'm going to fight for that for them, so they don't have to come out of pocket.
Okay.
I'd rather it come out of the seller's pocket. But if we can't work that out and my buyer would rather finance it, say, look, they're going to pay me, let's say we're buying that $500,000 house. I'm going to make it 500 now so I can do the math. So they're going to pay me $10,000. They're going to pay me 2%. They're going to give me $10,000, but you owe me 15. So there's 5 more. Would you like to finance that in with a deal and me work that out with the sellers? Or do you want to, you want to negotiate you want to keep negotiating with sellers to try to get that 5,000, right? If you do a full price offer, like you said on that deal, obviously when they say it depends on the offer, if you give them full price deal, they're going to give you 3%, right? Typically.
Right.
It's just when the buyer wants to offer less that they're going to give you less. So, but you should still try to negotiate that 3%. Because if you say, typically in that situation, it's a $500,000 listing, you offer 475 and 3%, they're going to say, we'll do 485 and 2%. And, you work it out from there.
Right.
So you probably could counter that at 485 and all 3%, and you got a deal. Right. So you've represented both sides on those kind of things. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, Jeanette. You're on mute, Jeanette. Jeanette, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm ranting on. I want to piggyback a little bit about what Juliana said in regards to the commission. So what in reality is the purpose of the GG rider? If we're trying to ask for the commission from the seller side, and wouldn't we have that rider, or when is it appropriate to provide this type of addendum?
Okay, I don't like it at all.
Okay.
I don't like it because what it says is we have a deal on everything except my commission. Right. So I'm kind of leaving, and we have 3 days to come up with a solution for my commission. After we all agree to this deal, we have 3 more days to figure out how we're going to pay what's owed to the buyer's broker. So you're leaving your buyer in a lurch, and you're making yourself look bad, because what if this deal blows up because they won't pay you? And now it looks like, oh, we had a house, but now, Jeanette wasn't getting paid, so she blew up the whole deal. Right. In reality,
My light went out.
Happy Halloween. In reality, we're negotiating, we're blowing up a deal because we can't figure out how to get the buyer's agent paid. So
Okay.
it looks bad, it feels bad. So let's say my wife and I buy a house, and Jeanette's our realtor, and we have this house and we're all excited, and we tell all our friends and family we got a contract on a house, and then 3 days later it blows up because they couldn't figure out how to get our agent paid. And now I got to tell everybody, yeah, we didn't buy that house because we couldn't pay our agent.
But wouldn't we have the EBBA at that point established before?
But that says, I owe you that money. I'm not saying you're going to get paid, but I can blow that deal up if I have to come out of pocket for it.
Right.
Because we didn't
Okay.
come up to we're still negotiating. We're under contract, but we're still negotiating.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I've got to hire an inspector, and I've got to, get going with my applications and all this stuff based on that house. And I'm not going to get that house because we couldn't get Jeanette paid. It looks like Jeanette's a greedy person who blew up the deal. In reality, I owe Jeanette. It's my money.
Okay.
Right. So I don't like that. Just put it in the contract. Let's negotiate it and be done with it.
And be done. Okay.
That's why I don't like the GG. And you know what? It's up to you. As much as it's up to the seller to say we only accept as is contracts, you can say this is the way we're going to do this. Okay, this is the way our offer is, because my client wants to make sure before they hire an inspector to go look at a property that we're going to get this property and everybody's going to get paid and everything is settled. I don't want to still be negotiating commissions and stuff while I'm paying, $500 for an inspection. Lena.
Yes, hi. So I am working on a LOI for commercial lease, and basically the landlord is a realtor and he is not paying the buyer's agent. Is that even legal?
Absolutely legal. He doesn't have to offer anything. You don't have to offer commissions for anybody. The buyer needs to pay you in that case.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way it is, or take them somewhere else. That's the way it is. That's absolutely legal not to offer any commission. You don't have to offer commission for anything. It used to not be legal to have something in MLS without offering the other side a commission. They just wouldn't let you put it in MLS. You had to at least offer $1, right? So, and now you don't have to offer anything. No, that's very clear on your listing agreement, even for residential properties. You don't have to offer anything. And you guys can bring buyers and I can say, we're not paying you. Now, but I better give you a good deal though, because your buyer's got to come out of pocket and pay you now.
Wow. Okay. Good to know.
They can do that. And commercial people typically understand that. I mean, if you're working with like a nail salon or a small restaurant or something that they're not used to doing a lot of business, then they won't. They'll be like, oh, I don't want to pay you out of pocket. I've got, I need to make changes to this place and invest in my business. But more sophisticated people, like if you're trying to place a Crunch Fitness somewhere, they're going to be like, okay, we know sometimes we got to pay our buyer's agent. We'll get a little better deal.
I emailed you the LOI. So whenever you have a chance, please review it and tell me what you think about his offer. He's not basically offering anything. We tried to negotiate for over a month now, and he's really stuck.
Well, if that's the case, you got to move on. I mean, hopefully there's another property for you, or he's got such a great, unique property that you can't move on, and you got to swallow his terms. So that's where you're going to be. But I'll take a look at it.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, typically if he's not offering tenant improvement or he's not offering free rent at all, and he's not offering to pay the broker, he's not giving on anything.
Right.
Typically going to be a difficult landlord to work with anyway. And you need to let your buyer know that too.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Juliana.
On that negotiation, when you submit the offer, you put your commission on the contract. So that if that's not accepted or if you don't get to an agreement on that negotiation.
You put it on the contract as part of the contract. So we don't I'm not hiring an inspector or anything until we get done with the contract, until we have a full contract.
Until that gets going.
Now, if they ask for it to come off of the additional terms because they're going to submit to you a compensation agreement, fine. I'm happy with the compensation agreement. Okay. If they refuse to ever give you a compensation agreement, even though we're supposed to have them now, just have that in writing that they refuse to give you one, and it's in the contract. So it has to be in the contract then, because we have to show where it came from. Okay. Well, anytime we get audited, we have to show why we got paid what we got paid. Okay. Right. So that's why Jeanette's going to be a stickler for that. Sometimes we have to show why we got paid, how we got paid, and why we got paid what we got paid. So we have to account for the money. So if it's in the contract and you have a thing saying they wouldn't send you the compensation agreement, that's fine. I'm not even sure how we're going to get audited for compensation agreements. It's an MLS rule. Some of these properties aren't on MLS. If you sell, a lot of you guys do this. You'll call me and say, hey, I'm selling a property from my landlord to a tenant who's already lives there. I'm doing it just, it's a limited listing or something like that. I'm just going to do the paperwork for them, whatever. It doesn't have to be there. It needs to be in the contract in that case. Like they're going to pay me $2,500 to draw this thing up. Okay, fine. Put it in the contract. And to answer another question you guys ask me all the time, how much should I charge for that? And the answer is I never have an answer for that. It depends on how well you know the people, how good friends they are, if they've done more business with you, if you want to get more business out of them. Do you want to be super nice or do it for almost nothing? Or do you want to, let's make some money because the bills are due? Then I don't know if I'll ever see these people again, kind of thing. Then you charge them a little bit more. So I've seen everything from $500 to $5,000 to write a contract or to do whatever. And that's depends on the size of the deal, obviously, and the generosity or relationship with the client. But it is, so to answer your question, it is required if they'll do it, put it on the contract. Otherwise, we have to account for the money.
Right. Pretty much becomes part of the contract, right?
Yeah,
All
it's part of
accepted
the
terms.
contract anyway. This is an agreement. It's not an addendum because the buyer doesn't really agree to it. It's not an addendum of it. But it is a broker to broker form. And if the broker refuses to fill out the form, they're the one violating the agreement if they refuse to fill out the form. And if they ask you to take it off the contract and refuse to fill out the form, don't do it. Okay, there's a reason for that. They're not operating in good faith.
Right. Mhm.
Okay, Miguel, which I haven't seen yet, by the way. I haven't seen anybody do that, to say I won't do either one. Miguel.
Yes, I just want to piggyback on the lease agreements. I got burnt a while back by a builder who had a very high-end leasing, and I had a gentleman who was a juror and everything. And you would think that he was going to pay a commission, and it was sort of understood in one way or another. But going forward, I would never bring a client there unless I have that compensation agreement with that builder or that leasing person up front before I bring anybody in, because if they can, they will leave you out. And so my 2 cents is, before you take a client to any leasing, you first go to talk to them and you tell them, this is my a compensation agreement. If you don't get that up front, they won't pay you. They won't, they'll try and evade it. So I just want to mention that.
Okay, great. And it's true. You get everything in writing. I want to show you guys something real quick. I want to go over this real quick again. Buyer brokerage agreement is for time. It's your agreement with a client for time of any listing anywhere, any property they buy anywhere, you get paid. That is for time. A showing agreement is for property. You do it, you put particular properties on there with the showing agreement. You show a property, look at the list of properties. You can put as many properties as you can fit in this blank, or can have one property. I talked to one of you this morning who was showing one property, very fancy property, to somebody, and they're refusing to sign the thing for, to be your client for 6 months, but they do want to see this property. They're going to have to sign for this property. And this property happens to be paying 2.5%. So you would go to the compensation part on page 2 and you would put 2.5%. So you can explain to them, look, don't be nervous. This is only for 123 Main Street, and it's for 2.5%, which is exactly what they're offering. If you don't buy this property, you don't owe me 2.5%. If, whatever it is, that's what it is. Okay. But if they're offering 2.5% and you want to give them that speech that you're going to be completely covered by the seller, then you show them where they're offering 2.5%, and then you put 2.5% in here. They are not going to be exposed for any money. Okay. So that's how showing agreements work. Showing agreements are places. Pre-touring agreements are pretty much worthless, but they do cover the requirement. Okay. This is the one that says may and might and possibly will pay you. What does it say? It says, if you wish, it says wish and may. And this, if you wish to work with a broker may ask you to sign. So I don't know why this even covers the requirement, but it does. I think when they came out with this whole thing, they thought they were sneaking this agreement in and that it would be hard to get people to sign buyer brokerage agreements or showing agreements. And it's really not. You guys haven't had much problem with it at all. We do know of some other people who haven't used them, other people at other brokerages who haven't used them, but you better use them. And some of you guys have, I think, Jeanette, you may have seen somebody, 1 or 2 people turn in a deal and say, oh, I don't have one. You better use them because we absolutely require them. Then there's modifications to them. All of these forms, I want to show you guys this. All of these forms are fillable on our site. They're not right now. You got to open the doc and then it's fillable PDFs. And we have on all of them, this part on the compensation part where it says, where does it say it on ours? It says they may not wish to see here. By selecting this box, consumer requests to be shown only listed properties for which seller is offering buyer brokerage commission compensation. Okay, so you can, if you have your client select this box, you don't have to show things where you have to fight for commissions because a lot of buyers can't come out of pocket to pay you 3%, right? They might be only putting 3% down. They might be 100% financed. So a lot of them couldn't come out of pocket for another, $18,000 or $3,000 or $9,000 or whatever it's going to be. And so they need it financed into the loan, and they don't want to seek houses that they can't. And it's what you explained to them. Okay.
Ryan, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
If I have a buyer and I show them a property and we submit an offer and it's accepted, do I have to have the showing agreement in the file so that we don't get audited and then fined?
Of course. Yes. So here's what I recommend also for showing agreements. Also, you don't need showing agreements or buyer brokerage agreements to show someone a house that you have listed for if it's your listing, just let you know that.
Oh,
If you have somebody who wants to come in and make it a thing that you didn't have a showing agreement for whatever reason, maybe they came into your open house, you were working an open house for someone else and they want to make an offer and you're going to write that offer for them, put the showing agreement with the offer. Okay. So for example, if Michelle, you have a listing and you say, Ryan, you want to work my open house this weekend? I would love to work your open house. Thank you very much. So I go work your open house. Juliana comes in to buy the house. Juliana wants to make an offer. I'm thinking, this is great. This is why I'm here. Besides to get buyer leads, I'm also here to sell this house. That's great. So yes, Juliana, I'll write you up that offer. When I give her the offer, I'm also filling out a showing agreement for this house, right? So she's not bound to me for anything else. She can leave and never see me again if you don't like her offer. She's not bound to me at all. I mean, I'm going to obviously talk to her about a buyer brokerage agreement. I'd love to help you find something, Juliana, even if this one doesn't work out for you, blah, 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 right? But if she only wants to make an offer on this house, I'm putting a showing agreement for whatever the listing address is, and I'm putting it with her to sign with her offer, with her as is. She's also going to sign a showing agreement, which I'm going to explain to her is only for this house, and it's only set at 2.5% because that's all Michelle's client was offering, et cetera. Does that make sense to everybody?
yes.
Everybody got that? Okay. So I don't need, now Michelle, even though it's because we're both FRI, I don't need a showing agreement for everybody who walks in the door of an open house because it's an FRI open house. Nothing is Michelle's, nothing is Ryan's, nothing is Juliana's, nothing is anybody's. It's all FRI's, or whoever your broker is, right? So it's an FRI listing. Therefore, I can show it because I'm an FRI agent. I'm just like you. We're all FRI agents. I can show it to whomever I want. Okay. Even if theoretically it's not an open house and I just have a client who wants to see one of your listings, I don't really need that showing agreement unless I'm going to put it in with the offer. Okay. That makes sense?
I have a listing presently, and it's pending now with a buyer that I now represent.
Okay.
So are you saying that I don't have to include this?
No, they came to see your listing. How did they find you? Off of a sign or Zillow or something?
It was a contact who was found out about the property through a friend of mine, Sphere of Influence.
Okay, wonderful. No, you showed your own listing to a client. That's or to a member of the public, but it was your own listing. You
Yes.
you don't need that.
Okay.
I would throw it in normally, just to cover all the bases. But you don't need that. You obviously don't need a compensation agreement. You're keeping all the compensation. There is no buyer's broker getting paid separately from you. So you don't need a compensation agreement either. You guys don't need a compensation agreement if you're both sides of the deal, or even really if FRI is both sides of the deal, but from agent to agent, protect yourself with one. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Jeanette.
Yeah, so in regards to the EBBA, I have a question. How do you go about, I feel like I've come across a lot of agents that leave the commission percent blank. And when I reach out to the agents, they're kind of like, oh, well, I don't really want to put a percent sign there because that kind of scares my buyer and this and that. I scare people away. What would you say, or I guess what role play or verbiage would you use towards a buyer, to get him to sign and work with you?
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it's not good real estate practice to just leave it blank.
It's not just not good real estate practice. It's illegal. So don't leave it blank. They can't leave it blank. You have to put a percentage there. That's the whole thing about protecting consumers, is not leaving it blank. That's the whole point, is to not leave it blank. So you have to put a percent there. Typically going to put 3% because you can always lower it. You can't take more than whatever you have on that agreement.
Correct.
If you do, like for, let's say for an example, if you put 2.5 and somebody offers you 3, you need a modification to that
Correct.
agreement. If you put 3 and DR Horton wants to give you a $5,000 bonus because this is your third customer you brought this year, then you got to get a modification of that agreement. You can't accept 3% plus $5,000. You can accept, now if they say we're giving a $5,000 bonus, but we're only paying 2.5%, and the 2.5% plus 5,000 doesn't equal 3%, that's fine. You can't keep more than 3%. So, or whatever you put on there, you can't keep more. You can accept less. I get that question from you guys a lot, but they're only taking 2.5, and I'm fine with that. Fine. You can accept less. Just let your, celebrate it with your buyer. Say, you know what, they're only offering me 2.5. You owe me 3, but you know what? You guys have been such great clients. I look forward to working with you in the future. I'll just get my broker to waive that.
Do
Right.
do we need to do a modification if we get less?
Nope. Not if you
Okay.
take less. Only
Okay.
only if you want more.
More.
If you're offered more. So that's that. How to get them to sign it? That's salesmanship. It's you explain to them the 3%. You explain, most of the time the seller's the seller's going to pay it. We're going to negotiate for it, etc. And you can tell them verbally if you want that. Look, if it's a little short, I'll work it out with you guys. But you be careful about that, because if they ever are not good friends of yours, or they ever say, hey, maybe you can only find them so they want the house that only pays 1%, or they want the house that pays nothing, and they say, hey, you told me you work with us on it, and now you want to fight about it. That's where you'll get in trouble. So I wouldn't even tell them I'll work with you on it. I would just say, we're going to try to get this. I'm going to do my very best to get this money from the seller. And at some point you got to believe in your services, that you're actually providing a value, and that it is worth paying for. And it is. Are you going to get them a better deal than they would get on their own? Yes. I mean, most likely, right? If you're doing your job. So believe in yourself and the value that you provide. And this is where I talk to you guys about having all the things that realtors do for people. Have all that ready to go. The 300 things that realtors do for people. Dari. Do you have a raised hand? If you're trying to talk, you might be muted.
So, a very particular question. When dealing with buying properties that are for people that are related to you or for yourself, you have to disclosure that you are related to the
close family, direct family, immediate family. Yes.
Yeah. So when would be the moment? Right in the first contact, because I've been like, we buy for a business that it's my husband's and mine. So I have to disclosure it. And then every time I try to approach it, like right hand, first time they say, oh, I feel that they're lowering the commission, the compensation. It's just like every time I say it's related to my person or someone that is related to me, they, instead of 2.5, they go to, oh no, we're just paying 2% or 1.5. And then that's not normal in the area. And then I pull out every time. But is there any way to avoid it?
No, you have to. You can't avoid them doing that. And you only have to disclose yourself and your husband and any relative that lives with you, and probably your children. I don't know, but not anybody else. So I think that you have. I think you just have to negotiate for that. I see what they're trying to do, and some agents say, "Oh, don't worry about commission, just take it off the price, whatever." But you have to negotiate for it, and there's no way to avoid it. If people want to offer less, they can offer less, but you just have to say, I want 3%. This is what we're doing.
Okay. I mean, I have to say that it's related to me, like the first time I contact them. I can't just ask for how much it is the compensation.
No, you can absolutely ask how much the compensation. Nobody else is telling anybody who their buyer is.
Okay.
No, you don't have to. When they first, that's when you first ask. No, I thought, if you're offering it if you're having to put it on the contract because they're not responding or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you put, they're going to see your name. If it's your own personal property, no, you absolutely ask what they're offering first and say,
Okay.
hey, can you send me that compensation agreement? I'll get it signed and back to you. And they say, yeah. And they send you the 3% or 2.5%, whatever it is, and you sign off on it.
So good. That would be a good strategy. Nobody's gonna just say, hey, you didn't say that it was for yourself. You didn't like.
No, they can't do that.
Okay.
No, unless it's on their listing agreement for some odd reason that I've never seen in my life that, hey, if they're buying for themselves, we're not offering commission. That's never been a thing. So absolutely not. No, you don't have to disclose that right away. That's for yourself. No.
Perfect.
No, they're supposed to tell you whatever's on their listing agreement. So if their listing agreement says we're not offering any commission, you can negotiate it for it. Well, that's fine. Then you might be, have to negotiate for it on the offer, and they're going to know who it is. But no, nobody's listing agreement says, it's less commission for somebody buying for themselves.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
All right. So there you are.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
You bet. They have to be honest with you it's legally, not even ethically. They have to be honest with you about what's on their listing agreement because they have to perform for that.
Yeah, I was just like wondering about the ethical part of not telling them right away that I'm related to the buyer, but
Not when you're
Just
asking that question. Not when you're asking that question. I don't
Mhm.
expect anybody. I've never asked who anybody's buyer is. I wouldn't expect them to answer that.
okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You have to put it on the form when you send it back, but
Mhm.
make sure they sign the compensation agreement, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Tammy's hand was up. It's down. Any other questions on that? Anything else you guys want to see or hear? This is your chance. Tammy in Orlando.
No, I was going to say I'd ask for that compensation at the beginning before I even tell them you're an agent. So, but anyway, so at the beginning you said that people aren't getting their checks because they don't have all their documents in. So they don't go look at the little, they don't go and go, hey, do I have all my forms in? Because I'm going to do a CDA and I want to get paid.
Right,
So
that's
let
it hasn't really been holding people's money up. It's just that Jeanette's having to tell them, hey, I need that form before I do your CDA. So yeah,
I don't understand why people don't look at their forms that are necessary before they get paid, because you can't get paid if there's something outstanding.
Right. Well, the checklist said flood disclosure or seller's property disclosure. So this has just been changed.
Okay.
So
And I do want to thank everyone because you guys have been on top of your game, especially when I've been hounding you down at the beginning, but everybody's been keeping on top of keeping their files up to date. So yeah, thank you.
fantastic. Oh, Jessica said something. Do I need a pre-touring if I am looking to buy a home for myself and also the realtor on the deal? Yes. You fill one out with yourself, just like you fill out a listing agreement if you're selling your own house. That's a great question, Jessica. Thank you. Just like if you're selling your own house, you need a listing agreement because that's between the broker and you. You got to separate yourself from as an agent and a customer. You are a consumer. You're a consumer and you represent the brokerage. So for Florida Realty Investments to list my house, for me to list my own house, I sign for both parties. I sign for the seller and for the brokerage as an agent, but I have to have that paperwork. I cannot put something on MLS without a listing agreement.
Ryan, I think she was asking about the pre-touring agreement, the
Same
showing.
thing.
Really?
Yep. Absolutely. You have to separate yourself as when you are the actual buyer or seller. You have to separate yourself from your role as buyer and your role as agent for the brokerage. Okay. So yeah, it's the brokerage. Don't think about it as yourself. Think about the brokerage needs that form, not you. You're an agent for the brokerage. I know you guys work for yourselves, but you also technically work for us. And we're responsible for all of your paperwork. We get you paid because we have to. And can you guys imagine if we didn't have brokers? I always think of the agency loss. You imagine if we didn't have brokers, just all of you guys just holding on to all your own paperwork and getting audited personally for these things? It'd be chaos, right? You imagine them auditing each of you individually and stuff. It'd be chaos. So that's our role, is to keep you compliant. We offer support, training, because we want you working here. And we give you 100% because we want you working here. But we are the ones who are actually doing the business. You guys are doing the business. We're the ones doing all the compliance and everything else. Okay. So we have all the responsibility. That's why we hassle you guys. Tammy.
If I have a guy in Canada that I just facilitate the lease for, I don't get paid. I just fill it out so that they can sign electronically. Do you need that on file?
Yeah.
It's really,
Wait,
it's
wait,
really
what did you
between
do?
those two. Pardon?
You didn't get paid. You didn't get paid. You just helped them find a tenant.
No,
No.
I just, the tenant's already in place and they're gonna need a renewal lease, so I'll just like do the lease and they can sign it and I don't really have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I don't like that for you or for us really getting involved in that, but you're not making money. There was no marketing of it. So that's a great question because we had one this morning. One of our agents is leasing out her own place. Okay. And she put it on MLS. She got a tenant, leased it out. And thought that, since I'm not taking any money, I don't need to turn in paperwork. Or she thought she only had to turn in the lease or turn in whatever, or the MLS sheet. No, if it goes, she just misunderstood. If it goes on MLS, we have to have all the paperwork, even if you don't take a commission. Okay. Because those are things we can get audited for. So even if you don't take a commission, you work for free, you sold your own house, whatever, we need all the documents. We're going to get audited for that. So yes, you have to still turn in all the documents, even if you didn't make money, if we aren't charging you a fee, whatever it is. Okay. So that's that. I just want to get that across. But also, if you're not doing that, that wasn't official, you did MLS, nobody's ever going to know that you helped with that. So we don't need anything for it. Anne.
Yes, I list my own house and finally I got the contract seller finance, 20% down. The interest rate is 5.25 and I take it. But my first time to do this kind of deal, any advice?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part. What are you doing?
I have a house that I list for sale a few months already. Finally, I have a contract seller finance and seller finance, but I have a balance on the house, 250. And they're willing to pay 20% down, put 20% down. I have never done the seller finance before.
You're going to have to pay off that 250 that you owe.
So I cannot do like wrap around anything like that.
You can try with the lenders and stuff. Get some legal advice on that. I don't know, but if you change ownership on it, unless they'll take an assignment on the mortgage, they'll let you not an assignment. What's it called? Anyway, they'll let them take your place on the mortgage. I don't see how that, and they probably can't. That's why
An assumption.
Subordinate.
Yeah, it's something where the borrower replaces you. Otherwise, when you sell something, you can't change ownership of something without paying off everything that's owed on it.
Isn't that a subject to?
Yeah, it's complicated. She needs to get legal advice on it. It's too complicated. But yeah, 20% down is not going to cover what you owe on it. So, unless it's a $2 million house or something, I don't know. But 20% down is not going to cover that 250 unless it's a really expensive house. So I get legal thing. And anytime you're doing a seller financing, guys, get a lawyer because they got to do a note and a mortgage and everything else. Otherwise, you can't just say, hey, you want to live in my house and you pay me this much for 30 years and then I'll give it to you. You got to have a contract with a note and a mortgage and everything else. And we don't draw up notes and mortgages. And it's not expensive to get a lawyer to do it. They've done it before. They'll put it in the program and switch out the names and the address and the terms. So it's not that big of a deal. It's like a far bar to them. Any other questions or comments? You bet. But there's a promissory note. There's a mortgage. If you ever have to kick them out, which a lot of times, guys, there's a reason they're seller financing. I don't mean to, seller financing is great if you can get it. But most of the time, it's people who don't have great credit and they can't get traditional loans. Most people don't give a 5.75. Right in these interest rates aren't going to give a 5.75 loan, a 5.75%. If you're wondering, a 5.75% interest loan, that's a pretty good deal right now. So most people aren't giving that on seller financing right now. If I were going to seller finance them, I'd expect to pay 8% or something. So you're giving them a great deal, but they are not known to pay their bills most likely or to be great money managers. And so there's a better chance that you're going to have to foreclose on them than other ones, which is great in some ways, 20% down plus whatever they pay you in the meantime, and you get to foreclose on them. But if you have to foreclose on them, you want it to be done absolutely perfect, or you can completely get robbed. You guys remember who was it, Cross Country or somebody who everybody got out of what they owed them when the market crashed? I don't know if you guys remember Cross Country Mortgage. but I think that's who it was. And I don't want to talk bad about somebody that didn't do right paperwork, but everybody who contested them beat them in court and got their loans waived. So instead of getting foreclosed, they had a house for free because there's something they did wrong on their notes and mortgages, and you don't want to be in that situation. Any other questions? And I'm sorry if it wasn't cross country, it might have been countrywide or somebody else. I don't know.
Could she do a lease purchase, kind of where she leases it and then gives them like 3 years to get financing, and then they can purchase it right from her and pay her loan off?
Absolutely. Yes, she can give them a balloon. Yes. And if maybe that's what she's talking about doing. Maybe she's charging them 5.75 for a couple of years, but that's not transferring ownership. That's not the same as seller financing with a contract. Because if I do seller financing with a contract, I'm changing ownership, and then I'm
Correct. Right. But she
Yeah,
really
she
can't
can
do that
avoid-
unless her mortgage is paid off. So if she leased it,
Yep, it'd be a smarter thing to do for her to lease. Yes, but she doesn't get the 20% down.
correct.
So it's up to her.
Well, it
But-
depends on how badly they want it. They might give her a bigger chunk up front, maybe. I don't know. But yeah.
And so if they do that, that's a lease to own, but it's not 20% down. That's just more of a lease to own than a seller finance. So
Yeah. Don't want to do lease option. I already asked.
okay. So yeah, that's better. At 5.75, I wouldn't either. I mean, you're offering a good rate there, and they don't have to deal with a bank and a bunch of mortgage origination things and all that. They just have to hire a lawyer for $1,500 and they're done. So
But if they hire a lawyer, the lawyer is somebody's gonna have to do like the title search, and they're gonna see that there's a lien with her mortgage. So is that even?
yeah,
Right.
they're gonna well, that's got to be part of it. Yeah, it's got to be part of it. You got to figure out what to do with that mortgage, and you can talk to your lender or talk to an attorney about what to do with that mortgage.
Do you
any
know?
other-
Yeah. Do you know any title that I can look how much fee that the title chart, things like that, on the website? Which title company that?
just talk to we've had a couple title companies on here. Anita was on here she said she'd look up title stuff for you for free and
It was Apex, right? The
no,
Apex.
the other one, Closing City. But either one of those, well, that was Brooke from Apex. Either one of those will take care of it for you.
Okay. Thank you.
I lean toward Anita on that. She's an attorney. So Chad.
Hey, I just wanted to pop in. If you're doing any type of assignment or subject to, definitely talk to a lawyer on that, because that due on sale clause is no joke, especially right now, because all the creative financing guys kind of abusing the assignment of mortgages and things, thinking they can just put it in a trust and it's gonna somehow save them. Definitely talk to a lawyer before you do anything with putting a mortgage in someone else's name without the approval of the mortgage company.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, that stuff has gotten out of control, and people find loopholes and ways to work around everything. So
the issue is they think they find a loophole, but that's literally just because the seller of the house is still on the hook for it. It's their credit that's going to get damaged on there. So don't sign anything without a lawyer taking a look at it if someone comes to you about creative financing.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, and they sound like a straight up deal that you have a mortgage on. So I would be very wary of that. All right. Any other questions? The Closing City. Email me for it. I'll send it to you. It's Anita at theclosingcity.com though. So I know that. I know it's Anita at theclosingcity.com. Any other questions or comments about anything real estate related, please? All right. I do have to disclose that. I do have to narrow it down. Real estate related, please. All right, guys. Thank you so much for everybody attending. We had great attendance today. We had 80 people in here at one point. I really appreciate you guys caring about the important stuff that we have to do. and getting these things. This is for you guys' protection. I hate seeing these settlement things, these buyer brokerage agreement problems and commission problems, compensation problems, and especially, some of you guys have gotten dinged for a % or two. We haven't had anybody get completely dinged for a whole deal yet, but you've gotten dinged for a % or two. And I always tell you guys, may all of your lessons in real estate be inexpensive. And some of them are more expensive than others. Tammy's nodding her head. She's had some, I know. You guys have bought lots of washers and dryers because you didn't detail it on the contract, what was coming and going. May all your mistakes be cheap ones. Daryl.
I think that was the highest attendance ever, wasn't it?
Oh no, we had 100 right when the BBA thing came out. We had 160 something people in here.
Cool.
Yeah, that special one we did right when that came out. We did on a Friday or a Monday with Carissa, and we had the attorney.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that's no, I appreciate you guys coming in, and I know it has the lowest ones, goals. Goals we see, you guys get down in the 20s for the goals. Yes, so Jenny, great question. We have a YouTube channel, and all of our presentations are on there. It was on your welcome email, Jenny, but you've been here a while. We'll send you another one with the YouTube link. Jeanette, would you mind doing that? To Jenny O'Driscoll. And yeah, so the YouTube channel will have all of our presentations on there. We record every one except once or twice we've had attorneys typically say, please don't record this, because we're going to give them some good advice that we don't want out there. We don't want to be responsible. Kind of like the realtor hotline, the realtor legal hotline, where they tell you something and say, don't tell anybody I told you this. They won't put their name on it, or they won't give you real advice. They'll just say, oh, I don't know, you better talk to an attorney. So I appreciate you guys all coming on. If you have any other questions or anything, let us know. But have a great week. We'll have something great for you next week, and I appreciate you guys. Bye, guys. Oh, more. If you guys will do some more testimonials, email me if you guys will do a testimonial, just a video testimonial. Email me if you guys will do it. I know some of you guys are camera shy, whatever, but we love you. We'd love to have video testimonials, and send Mandy that too. Mandy, put your email in the chat, and Jeanette will send it to you. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.